Hello, everyone, and welcome to our DevSync at Subspace. We'll be sharing updates from development team over last 2 weeks. Due to holidays, we didn't have DevSync a few times. And we'll start with the core protocol. Actually, with me, updates on my side included two updates of Substrate. One was related to fixing the sync progress tracking, especially for SDK, where we have another state which is pending comparing to the upstream substrate. So we know when our blockchain is not aware, or like our node is not aware of other sync nodes, and we can like track that as a separate state. Before it was considered idle, which is not actually accurate. There was also update to peer-to-peer stream limits that allows us to reach higher concurrency without hitting limits and breaking connections. That is still pending upstream in peer-to-peer review. However, we are using our forks, so we can enjoy it already. Then there was a fix for the private IPs that were extracted from persistence. If you have started Node before with private IPs enabled, and then you restarted with the flag that disables them, it was still using private IPs, which was causing problems. And I also discussed with folks upstream that there is a better way to actually like limit that from fundamentally being able to connect in the first place. So that's something we'll improve later. There was also long-standing issue. We didn't verify pieces that we retrieve from DSN. Now we do. So that was closed finally. And I was also preparing for the offsite, obviously. This week, I'll probably be helping a little bit on the networking side and discussing things with Shamil. Otherwise, there will be an offsite. And I think that will occupy a lot of my time. With that, Shamil, turning to you.
Sure. Last 2 weeks I had a vacation, and for this week I'm going to modify academy code connected to the academy pool model. I will change storage provider for the farmer in order to finally merge the pool model PR. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you. Rahul.
So I was working with Jeremy, kind of preparing for the upcoming consensus changes. Mostly working on the vertical scalability, vertical and horizontal scalability of the consensus, and then started looking at the proof of stake with the error of time and other things. So we're trying to scope out what we'll be doing for mainnet and what will be done after mainnet launch. So that's where we are at. So this week I plan to meet with Jeremy again and kind of have more concrete plans for the upcoming month, so that we can start implementing any changes. That's
Okay.
it.
Sounds good. Lucheng, what about domains?
So there are only a few minor updates in the last 2 weeks, such as refining the logs related to the executor to be more concrete and fruitful, and also like eliminate the usages of like the secondary chain term in the code base. The focus for this week is to update the spec and the design docs, and also working on our plan for the long-term solution of maintaining the core domain runtime codes. The embedding all the non-system domain runtime codes into the system domain runtime is not sustainable.
Yep, I agree. All right, Ning, I saw your PR was finally approved.
Yeah. And from last meeting to this meeting, I think there's some update on the I have worked on to the codomain frost pool processing, like from how it's submit to the correct parent chains and how it is verifying and processing. And from now, I think the codomain frost pool can be processed correctly. And I also working on some refactoring to the domain executor client side, and I will continue this work this week. That will be my update.
Okay, I don't see that today. So let's transition to Parth.
Yeah. So from my end, in the last 2 weeks, I have changed the cross chain specification a lot. The major updates include additional security scenarios, which depicts if, for example, if majority domain operators go malicious, if majority executors set go malicious, etc., etc. Other small changes to the specification to give better idea to reader regarding it. Apart from that, I've been going through Babylon white paper to just learn how they are communicating with between Bitcoin and Cosmos proof of stake. And apart from that, I have started researching in Ethereum Light Client. And Unfortunately, there is no standalone implementation exist, but there is a fairly up to date specification. I have derived some stuff from the specification and also created the design document for the same. For this week, I will be working on extending that design document, as well as um, also specking out the internal relay design some more.
All right, thanks, Parth. Switching over to product, Serge.
Yeah, fine. So I was working mostly on Block Explorer, and I deployed Gemini 3 Archive and Squid. And I also updated URLs for Gemini 2, Squid, and Archive. So we changed the subdomain structure a little bit. Now we have like archive.chain name subspace network, and same for Squid. Apart from that, I discovered few UI issues, created issues on the GitHub. We had some discussions with Arthur on also some UI changes, and I created issues for those. There were some minor updates in the infrastructure repository regarding Docker Compose for the Squid archive. And rest of the time I was working on the implementation of end-to-end tests. So tests for like blocks, headers, extrinsics, and events are already implemented. That was quite straightforward. And for balances, it's a little bit more complicated, because apparently it will require setting up a local DevNet and sending some local transfers, and checking balances against the RPC after those transfers. Yeah, there was also some minor update on the relayer UI. I added a placeholder for the UI because it's currently not active and it was rendering empty tables. And yeah, that's all.
Awesome, that sounds like a lot. Natasha.
Yeah, from my side, I was working adding unit tests and end-to-end tests to the blockchain block explorer. One of the things that I've been working on is also refactoring each of the components so they are better, easier to test. Some of the components need some refactoring for that. And right now I'm working on completing the end-to-end test using Playwright in order to test like whole pages. So I use unit testing in order to test each of the components, but for the whole page functionality, I decided to use end-to-end with Playwright. So it's more user-focused test for that. And this week I will continue working on the tickets that Serge created for UI issues that he found and some of the changes discussed with Arthur regarding design.
Nice. Ivan, what about SDK?
So on the SDK side, I just followed your updates of the substrate and also bug fixes. So basically, yeah, I updated the monorepo version 2 times, and one time I also switched the syncing mechanism to just like to the back off, so that we could so that we would be sure that our node is actually synced. Like we would wait for 6 seconds, I believe, or something. Yeah. Apart from that, I also changed like serialization of the SDK configs a bit, so that we would emit like the default configurations as the config is just too large, and also propagated the changes to the CLI. So now we will have like very small config on the CLI end, which is cool. So yeah, also right now I added the executor support to the SDK. So I hope that this pair will be finalized soon, as like I fixed all the comments on the loop chain. Yeah. So as for this week, I plan to work on the checking the balances, so that we could show the like the rewards which user won. So yeah, that's it on my end.
Yeah, support for executors on SDK side will be big. That's like last missing piece. Okay.
Yeah.
Ozgan?
Yeah, I haven't heard the ping, sorry. So for CLI side, it was a bit quiet. I was reviewing Ivan's PRs, and we had a bug for the SDK side. We fixed it, and then I reflected on the CLI side. The big news is this is a bad news, by the way. For CLI, I tested the syncing. For my connection, it was really bad, the syncing experience. What I mean is it was stucking every half an hour or 1 hour, and it was not continuing from where it's stuck when I didn't do anything. I had to stop it and restart. I left it on a couple of nights just to try whether it will succeed progressing. It didn't. Nazar, you probably remember we had tested my connection between your device and my device, and it was not quite the perfect one for the syncing. What I'm suspecting is it's my connection, although I talked with Ivan and Serge, they didn't experience that issue, but maybe I'm not the only one. And I also tested with my mobile hotspot, didn't fix the problem either. So yeah, that's the news I can give about CLI for this week. If we can do anything about this issue, I can try my efforts on that. Otherwise, maybe improving my knowledge on Node code should be beneficial, because right now there is nothing to be done on the CLI side. I mean, unless there is new changes from SDK side, like Ivan mentioned for the reward. Yeah, otherwise I'm planning on reading more Node code.
Yeah, I think on the sync side, a lot of nodes went offline on the Gemini 3B. So it's kind of in a rough shape already. And there will be changes from Shamil on the DSN side, and we'll be rebooting it. So would be nice to test then, because there are a lot of improvements on SDK, on DSN side with those updates.
Right.
Okay, we do not have either Daria or Jeremiah to talk about research, but there were some interesting developments on the consensus. I'd call it version 2.3 at this point, but they'll share when they can, and you can follow updates in Slack in the meantime. Happy to see everyone made it out of holiday safely, and had some work done in the meantime. And yeah, we'll see everyone next week, and thanks for watching.